When I first arrived on Earth, I had no idea what to expect. I had heard whispers about the place, of course stories passed between stations, told as if it were a mythical land where danger lurked behind every corner. But that's just what they were to us at the time, stories. We, with our advanced technology, our superior training, couldn't imagine that a planet like Earth, primitive and untouched by the galactic scale of warfare, could be all that threatening. I remember the confusion on the faces of my comrades when we received our orders. Why Earth? Why send us, seasoned veterans of interstellar battles, to a backwater planet? None of it made sense. We'd fought on worlds with gravity so intense it could crush a weaker species, and planets with atmospheres so toxic that a single breath could melt your lungs. Earth was a step down, or so we thought. I'll never forget the moment I first set foot on the planet. It was nothing like what I had imagined: the vibrant colors, the lush landscapes, the diversity in life forms. It was beautiful, almost serene. We landed in a jungle thick with plant life I had never seen before, trees stretching up higher than some of the ships I had served on. For a moment, I let my guard down, lulled by the quiet hum of nature. But that's when it hit me: this beauty was deceptive. We hadn't even set up camp before the first storm rolled in. At first, it seemed like nothing to worry about, just a bit of wind, some rain, but within minutes, that storm escalated into something violent. The winds howled so loud that communication between our units became impossible. Trees were uprooted, entire sections of the jungle were torn apart as if they were made of paper. It wasn't just a storm, it was a force of nature, a fury that none of our technology could control. Our base camp, the one we spent hours constructing, was reduced to rubble in minutes. We were completely unprepared for this kind of raw power. I remember standing there drenched and bewildered, thinking, how do humans survive this? And that was just the beginning. As I spent more time on Earth, I realized that the planet's weather wasn't just unpredictable, it was hostile. Tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, Earth threw everything at us. Every time we felt like we'd gotten a handle on things, the planet would remind us that we were not in control. For a while, it was hard to focus on anything other than staying alive. It became clear to me why this place was labeled a death world. But if the weather wasn't enough to convince us, the wildlife certainly was. You see, Earth is home to some of the deadliest creatures I've ever encountered, and I've fought in wars across dozens of planets. The first time we went on a recon mission, we ran into a pack of creatures called wolves. They weren't massive in size, but there was something about them that set them apart from anything we had seen. It was their coordination, their precision. They moved as one, silent, eyes glowing in the darkness. In a matter of minutes, they had surrounded our team, and before we could react, they attacked. Our weapons, the ones we trusted in countless battles, seemed useless. These creatures didn't fear us. In fact, it felt like they were toying with us, testing our weaknesses. If it weren't for a passing human ranger who scared them off, we would have been wiped out. I began to realize that Earth's creatures, even the ones that looked small and insignificant, had evolved to be perfect predators. The planet itself was so harsh that only the strongest, the most cunning, could thrive. It wasn't just the wolves. There were creatures in the water, in the skies, even beneath the ground, each one deadlier than the last, and they were relentless. One day, we encountered a creature humans called a grizzly bear. It stood taller than any of us, its muscles rippling beneath its fur. At first, we laughed. We had fought enemies with claws the size of spears, enemies that could tear apart starships with their bare hands. How dangerous could this thing be? We fired a few shots at it, expecting it to retreat. But the bear charged, and let me tell you, that's when the fear set in. We had advanced weaponry, rifles that could vaporize a target in seconds, but this creature shrugged off our attacks as if they were nothing. It tore through our ranks, and in that moment, I saw the raw power of Earth's wildlife. Our technology didn't matter. Our training didn't matter. We were nothing more than prey to that bear. We only survived because we managed to retreat into the safety of our armored vehicles. After that encounter, something changed. We started to see Earth differently. It tore through our ranks, and in that moment, I saw the raw power of Earth's wildlife. Our technology didn't matter. Our training didn't matter. We were nothing more than prey to that bear. We only survived because we managed to retreat into the safety of our armored vehicles. After that encounter, something changed. We started to see Earth differently. It wasn't just a planet, it was a battlefield, and everything on it, from the weather to the creatures, was an adversary. But the most dangerous thing about Earth wasn't its storms or its predators. No, the most dangerous thing about Earth was the humans. I could see the confusion in my comrades' eyes when I told them this. How dangerous could this thing be? We fired a few shots at it, expecting it to retreat. But the bear charged, and let me tell you, that's when the fear set in. We had advanced weaponry, rifles that could vaporize a target in seconds, but this creature shrugged off our attacks as if they were nothing. It tore through our ranks, and in that moment, I saw the raw power of Earth's wildlife. Our technology didn't matter. Our training didn't matter. We were nothing more than prey to that bear. We only survived because we managed to retreat into the safety of our armored vehicles. After that encounter, something changed. We started to see Earth differently. How could humans, a species with no claws, no natural weapons, be the apex predators of such a deadly planet? That's when I began to understand something crucial. It wasn't about physical strength. It was about resilience, adaptability. Humans had learned to survive on a world that constantly tried to kill them. They had become experts at outsmarting their environment, using their intelligence to overcome challenges that would destroy other species. My comrades were still skeptical. Of course, they hadn't seen what I had seen. But as I continued my time on Earth, I would witness firsthand the lengths humans would go to survive on this death world, and it would leave me with a respect for them that I had never imagined possible. The moment I realized that humans were the true apex predators of Earth was during an operation in one of their dense jungles. My team was tasked with scouting the area, and we believed we had the upper hand. Our technology was advanced, our senses enhanced, and we were trained to deal with anything. But we were wrong. The jungle itself was a maze, thick with plant life, crawling with creatures whose very presence could be sensed but not seen. We encountered all manner of deadly animals, but that wasn't what stunned us, it was the humans. The way they moved through the jungle, invisible to everything around them, blending into the chaos like they were part of it. They didn't just survive on this planet, they had mastered it. I witnessed a group of human soldiers face an ambush by some of Earth's most dangerous wildlife. The predators had the humans outnumbered and outmatched in physical strength, but what followed shocked me. The humans didn't panic, they didn't run. Instead, they set traps, simple traps, using vines and branches from the jungle, things that seemed primitive, almost laughable. And yet, these traps turned the tide in their favor. The predators fell, one by one, ensnared in the very environment they were supposed to dominate. It was as if the humans had anticipated every move, using the terrain itself to defeat the creatures without even engaging in direct combat. That's when I realized that humans were different. Their physical limitations, the ones we had always seen as weaknesses, weren't weaknesses at all. That's when I realized that humans were different. Their physical limitations, the ones we had always seen as weaknesses, weren't weaknesses at all. They were part of what made humans so dangerous. While other species relied on brute force or advanced technology, humans relied on their cunning and adaptability. They outsmarted their enemies, using their environment as a weapon in ways we couldn't even begin to imagine. I remember watching those humans and thinking, these are not the frail beings we assumed them to be in that moment. I understood that humans didn't just endure the dangers of Earth, they thrived in them. They knew how to turn the planet's deadliest aspects to their advantage, which made them even more formidable than the predators that stalked its jungles. And as we continued our mission, that fact became impossible to ignore. But it wasn't just the creatures of Earth that posed a threat. The planet itself was as dangerous as its wildlife, if not more so. Natural disasters on Earth aren't like anything we've encountered on other planets. It's not just the occasional tremor or storm. The very ground beneath your feet can become your enemy without warning. I'll never forget the first time we experienced an earthquake. At first, it was subtle, a small tremor that seemed like nothing. We had no reason to worry. But then, in an instant, the ground shifted violently. It was as if the planet was trying to tear itself apart. Entire sections of the jungle began to collapse, trees fell, and the ground split open, swallowing anything in its path. We were caught completely off guard, despite all our technology and preparation. But not the humans. They knew, somehow. They had sensed the earthquake coming long before it hit. They had been watching for signs, small changes in the environment that we, with all our advanced sensors, had completely missed. When the earthquake struck, the humans were already in motion, evacuating to higher ground, securing their supplies, and ensuring their safety. It didn't stop there. I witnessed the aftermath of a volcanic eruption that wiped out an entire region. The sky turned black with ash, and molten lava flowed across the land, destroying everything in its path. We were too late to react. The eruption had been sudden and catastrophic, leaving us scrambling to find shelter. And yet, the humans, once again, survived. They didn't have time to flee, but they didn't need to. They had already planned for such a disaster. Their shelters were designed to withstand the lava flow. Their knowledge of the land allowed them to predict where the lava would travel, and they positioned themselves accordingly. Even in the face of complete destruction, the humans adapted. I remember one of them explaining how they had developed the ability to read the planet over centuries of living on its surface. It wasn't just about surviving earthquakes, tsunamis, or volcanic eruptions. It was about thriving in an environment that was constantly trying to kill them. They understood Earth's moods better than anyone else ever could. Where we saw random chaos, they saw patterns. Where we saw danger, they saw opportunity. At that point, it was clear that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't its wildlife or its natural disasters. It was the humans who had learned to live and fight alongside them. These weren't just survivors waiting for the next disaster to strike. They were warriors forged by the planet itself. My comrades began to grasp what I had learned during my time on Earth. The planet wasn't just hostile, it was a crucible that had shaped its inhabitants into something more resilient, more adaptable than we could have ever imagined. The humans were molded by this environment, and their strength didn't come from their technology or weapons, but from their ability to endure and outthink their enemies. It's one thing to face a predator you can see or a storm you can predict, but to face an enemy who can survive both, who can use the planet itself as a weapon, that's something far more terrifying. Humans are unlike any species I've encountered. Their adaptability to harsh conditions defies logic. No matter where you place them, whether in the scorching deserts or freezing tundras, they find a way to not only survive, but thrive. I've seen their cities rise in the most unforgiving environments, from barren wastelands with temperatures so extreme that most beings would perish within hours, to icy landscapes where the cold could freeze entire species solid in minutes. The humans adapt, adjust, and flourish. One story stands out vividly in my mind. During one of our operations, a human soldier became separated from his unit, deep in the jungle. For weeks there was no contact. We assumed he had perished. The jungle was a brutal place, filled with predators, disease, and the constant threat of enemy forces. We had no reason to believe he could have survived. But then, to our astonishment, he emerged from the jungle, alive and well. He had no advanced technology, no communication gear, just his wits and the knowledge he had acquired throughout his life. He had used basic tools, sharp stones, makeshift spears, and branches to craft weapons, and he built shelters from the materials he found around him. He learned to track and hunt the animals of the jungle, using their own behaviors against them. And what was even more remarkable, he had been tracking enemy movements the entire time, passing the information back to his unit when he finally reconnected with them. His survival wasn't just luck, it was pure, practiced resilience. I thought about that human, stranded and alone, and realized that no other species I'd encountered could have done what he did. Most would have succumbed to the elements or been hunted by predators. But not the humans. They adapt, they learn, and they overcome. It's a trait that makes them formidable, not just in nature, but in warfare as well. When humans enter combat, their instincts are something to behold. Their history is rich with tales of hunters, warriors, and defenders, and that mindset is ingrained in their very being. They don't simply fight to survive, they fight to win. They're strategic, ruthless when necessary, and endlessly creative in their approach to battle. I've seen them face enemies who, by all rights, should have overwhelmed them. But the humans, with their deep-rooted instincts as hunters, always found a way to turn the tide in their favor. I recall one battle in particular. It was a small human unit, no more than a dozen soldiers, facing an entire alien battalion. The odds were stacked against them. We, observing from a distance, assumed they would retreat or surrender. But instead, they launched a series of attacks that were as surprising as they were devastating. Using guerrilla tactics, they struck from the shadows, always staying one step ahead of their enemies. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps, ambushing their opponents, and disappearing before the enemy could even mount a proper defense. The alien battalion, far superior in numbers and technology, was decimated. Those who survived fled, too terrified to engage the humans any further. The ferocity with which those humans fought, combined with their tactical brilliance, was unlike anything we had ever seen. It wasn't just brute strength or advanced weaponry that won them the day. It was their deep understanding of warfare, their ability to outthink their opponents, and their willingness to adapt to any situation, no matter how desperate. And this is what sets humans apart. Their resilience isn't just about surviving harsh environments or outlasting predators, it's about their ability to face seemingly impossible odds and come out on top. They don't just survive, they thrive in situations where most would falter. Their instincts as hunters and warriors have been honed over millennia, and when they fight, it's not just for survival, it's to dominate, to outmaneuver, and to win. After witnessing these battles, my comrades started to ask the same question I had: how does a species develop such a powerful drive to survive, to adapt, and to fight? The answer, I believe, lies in their homeworld. Earth is a hostile, unpredictable place, and humans have been shaped by that environment. They have learned to expect the unexpected, to be prepared for any threat, and to never underestimate their enemies. It's not just their biology that makes them resilient, it's their mindset, forged by a planet that constantly challenges them. The human experience is a testament to what can be achieved through persistence, intelligence, and adaptability. They are survivors, yes, but more than that, they are warriors capable of facing anything the universe throws at them and emerging victorious. There's a saying among humans that I've come to respect deeply. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I've come to understand that on Earth, this is more than just a saying, it's a truth that defines their existence. Every challenge, every disaster, every enemy they face only sharpens their instincts and strengthens their resolve. It's no wonder, then, that the humans are feared by those who have faced them in combat. They are not a species to be underestimated. Their resilience, adaptability, and unyielding will make them one of the most dangerous forces in the galaxy. And after everything I've seen, I can't help but feel a deep respect for what they have become. They are more than just survivors of a death world, they are the product of its harshest lessons, and those lessons have made them the ultimate warriors. Earth isn't just a planet, it's a crucible, a place that forges its inhabitants in ways few of us from the stars can fully comprehend. Everything about the planet challenges its life forms, pushing them to adapt, evolve, and overcome or perish. For humans, every facet of their existence is shaped by these conditions, and it shows in every part of who they are. From the very beginning of their species, they have been in a constant battle with their environment. Think about it, Earth has predators more dangerous than anything we've seen on most habitable planets. But humans didn't just avoid these creatures, they hunted them, tamed them, and sometimes even eradicated them. They learned early on that to survive, they needed to be smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anything else around them. Their ancestors faced saber-toothed beasts, massive carnivores, and venomous creatures that could kill with a single bite. The humans that survived these times were the ones who learned to use the environment to their advantage, whether it was creating fire to keep predators at bay, building tools to hunt more efficiently, or constructing shelters to withstand the elements. Every challenge was a lesson that shaped them into what they are today. But it wasn't just predators they had to deal with. Earth itself is a hostile place. The weather is unpredictable, the land masses shift, volcanoes erupt, tsunamis wipe out entire coastlines, and earthquakes tear apart cities. No place on Earth is truly safe, and yet humans have thrived there for millennia. They built cities in deserts where no life should flourish. They live on frozen tundras where temperatures drop so low that most species would freeze to death in minutes. They've even settled on islands that sit on the edge of volcanic activity, knowing full well that at any moment, the ground beneath them could erupt in flames and molten rock. What's most remarkable is how humans don't just survive these conditions, they adapt to them. They learn from every disaster, every encounter with death, and become stronger because of it. This planet is their battleground, and it's also their greatest teacher. Every earthquake, every predator, every storm has taught them a lesson in survival. Earth forces humans to be resilient, to endure, and to find ways to overcome the impossible. And over time, it has molded them into one of the toughest, most determined species the galaxy has ever seen. I remember my last battle on Earth vividly. It was the final time I stood side by side with humans, and it changed my perspective on them forever. Our forces were up against a superior alien army. Their technology far exceeded anything we had at our disposal. They outnumbered us, outgunned us, and had us surrounded. From a tactical perspective, there was no chance for us to win. Any other species would have accepted defeat or fled, but not the humans. They stood their ground. We were stationed in a mountainous region where the terrain was rough, jagged, and unstable. At first, I couldn't understand why the humans had chosen such an inhospitable place to make their stand. It seemed like a death trap. But then, as the battle unfolded, I saw the genius in their plan. They didn't fight the enemy head-on. They used the environment just as their ancestors had done for millennia. They triggered avalanches to wipe out entire enemy divisions. They led the alien troops into narrow ravines, where rockslides triggered by hidden charges crushed them. They funneled the enemy into choke points where they could pick them off one by one. And when it seemed like the enemy had gained the upper hand, the humans would disappear into the mountains, using the terrain to their advantage. It wasn't just a battle, it was a lesson in mastery over one's environment. Even though we were outnumbered, the humans turned the terrain into their greatest weapon. By the end of the battle, the alien forces were in disarray. Their superior numbers and technology meant nothing in the face of humans who knew how to use the planet itself to fight back. When the dust settled, we were still standing not because we had more firepower, but because the humans understood how to survive and win in conditions that would have crushed any other species. As I reflect on that battle, it's clear to me now that the humans weren't just fighting an enemy, they were using the lessons Earth had taught them over centuries of survival. They've lived on a planet where death is a constant presence, and it has made them stronger, more resourceful, and more relentless than any species I've ever known. That's what Earth does. It doesn't just create survivors, it creates warriors. It forges its inhabitants in fire, disaster, and constant struggle. And in doing so, it has given rise to a species that, despite its physical limitations, is one of the most formidable forces in the galaxy. The humans are more than just products of their environment, they are shaped by it in ways that no other species can understand. As I finish recounting my experiences to my comrades, I can see the realization in their eyes. They understand now what I have come to know through my time on Earth. Humans are not to be underestimated. They have been shaped by one of the deadliest planets in the galaxy, and that has made them something truly remarkable. I leave them with this thought: Earth, for all its dangers and unpredictability, has made humans into what they are today. It's not just their home, it's the forge that has molded them into survivors, warriors, and ultimately, one of the most resilient species in the universe.